Let's talk about reading slumps because I'm currently fighting one. Good morning. It's Monday for me. This will probably go up later today, tomorrow. I don't know. We'll decide. I'm struggling a lot with reading in the last few months, last couple months. And I have these like wins where I like break through and I get through it because my reading slump currently isn't necessarily about reading. It's not that I'm overwhelmed with reading, it's that I'm overwhelmed with everything else. And then I just feel like I don't have the brain space when I do start reading. So here's some tricks of what has been getting me out of it and getting me back into reading every time that I start to be like zero motivation. And a lot of this is going to be dependent on where you're at in your mental health too. Like yesterday, I just was not in the headspace. I listened to something instead of read it. So that's my first thing, is try a different format. So number one is try a different format. If you are typically a physical media consumer, give an audiobook a try. I know this doesn't work for everyone, but I do recommend a couple of different things if you are struggling to get into audiobooks. The first thing is try a reread of a book that you really, really liked. Try a reread of a book from your childhood, a middle grade, something that you really loved. It'll kind of, for me at least, puts you back in the headspace of being a kid and having somebody read a book to you. You can do that with one of your favorite books too. Go to, if you don't want to use Audible, you can use Libby. Most places, if you have a library card, you can use Libby and they have a wide selection of audiobooks. If you have a Spotify Premium, I believe you can do it there. I think you have to have Premium. I don't use Spotify. If you go to Libby, one of the things that you can do is you can sample each of the books and you can listen to a couple of minutes from the book, and then you can decide if you like that narrator, if you like their pacing. Within that, there's a little icon up above. I'll put a screenshot of my Libby like playing a book. You can alter the speed. So try altering the speed. If you don't like the person's pacing, try speeding it up to 1.25.
I could have become a mass murderer after I hacked my governor module, but then I realized I could access the combined feed of entertainment channels
And see how that sounds. 1.5, see how that sounds.
It had been well over 35,000 hours or so since then.
1.75.
A little under 35,000 hours of movies, serials, books, plays, and music.
I tend to like it when people talk at me faster, and that allows me to listen more because I'm like zoned in on what they're saying. If their gap between words is too long when people are talking to me, I really struggle to pay attention. So I tend to speed things up. So I'm a 2x typically.
I was a terrible failure. I was also still doing my job on a new contract.
Maybe a 1.75. There are some narrators that Stephen Pacey, for example, I absolutely love at 1.5.
The Blade Itself, from the First Law series, by Joe Abercrombie, read by Stephen Pacey.
That is perfect. Rachel Maddow, when I've listened to her nonfictions, 1.5, absolutely perfect. Play around with it a little bit. And even if you don't listen to a full book and you just listen to a bunch of samples, maybe you'll hear a sample of a book that you're like, I want to read that. And then you can get the digital copy from Libby right in the app. If you are someone who gets discouraged because the book is not already available, you can filter to available now. So I'll put a little thing here and show you to do that. Essentially just select the filter and click it to available now. So then you're not even sampling things that aren't available right now. Everything you're listening to is available. You can just click the checkout button on it. So that's my number one, is try a different format. It's the same goes if you are constantly a audio reader, turn your sound off. Maybe if you need sound like me, sometimes I need background noise, put on a ambient playlist and get a digital book and read through that and try reading it digitally versus physically. If you're also a digital reader, you could try audio or try physical. Changing up the format massively works. For some reason for me, if I'm really struggling with an audiobook, I'm struggling with a physical book, I will pick up my e-reader and read something digitally. I'll check out something from Libby, read it digitally, and it kicks my brain into something different because it is something different on the page. My number two is going to be graphic novels and manga. So I have a couple here, and my first suggestion is if you are unfamiliar with graphic novels like I was, The Watchmen is down there. That one's really good because I've seen the movie so many times. So if you've seen a movie a lot and you know there's a graphic novelization of it, pick that up because you're familiar with the story and you can kind of get a handle on the pacing. Another one is to jump to middle grade. This is Garlic and the Vampire by Brie Paulson. This is a really cute graphic novel about a little garlic person who has anxiety, but she's the perfect one to go meet this big scary vampire. And it's just a really cute story about acceptance and about dealing with your own anxiety. And the artwork is lovely, and it's middle grade, so it's very quick and easy to understand for most adults. I really recommend it. It's entirely different pacing. It's going to be a shorter story. You're going to have visuals to go along with it. For someone like me who doesn't get pictures in my head, I love graphic novels sometimes because I can see what the author really wanted me to see. For manga, I check a lot of my manga out from the library. The same with graphic novels because they are expensive. I bought this Garlic and the Vampire one because Brie Paulson was at Emerald City Comic Con, and so I bought it to get a signed copy. But I have checked them all out from the library, typically digitally, and then I read them on my phone if they are a graphic novel so that I can have the color. This is Attack on Titan. This is a manga series I started last year and fell in love with. I am now on volume 13. I kind of use them for when I'm really struggling through the month. I'll be like, let me go get this one. I had to buy because none of my libraries had volume 6. But I'll go pick up a book or two from the library, and these are they're 192 pages. They're very few words on the page. They're easy to read. Again, you're seeing what the author wanted you to see as you're seeing it, and it is such a different format from what we're typically consuming when we're consuming print media that it just kind of re-engages my brain with the storytelling part of book reading rather than the physical act of reading words on a page. It's more about the storytelling, which kind of gets me excited for other stories. And then what I tend to end up doing is let me find something kind of like this. Some other ones I liked were the graphic novelization of Watership Down was absolutely fantastic. It takes the story and it does shorten it a little bit because they said they couldn't do it to focus on every single rabbit in the story. I have not read Watership Down yet or watched any of the shows, so this was a great intro to the story for me, and the art was absolutely stunning. So something like that where let me dip my toe into the story that I know has a graphic novelization. And so these are all different ways that I kickstart my brain. Another suggestion is to change genres. So I typically read horror and fantasy where the stakes are big, either in the personal life, like such as horror, somebody's life is at stake, or fantasy, epic fantasy, where the world is at stake. So switching into something that's a little bit different can be very helpful for me. So I have some examples. Sci-fi, but specifically a cozy sci-fi. I would say this is along the lines of cozy. This is Kaiju Preservation Society by John Scalzi. It is funny. It's dad humor, but it's funny. I just really enjoyed it as something entirely different than what I normally read. Another one that was different from what I normally read was Legends and Lattes, and again, this is a cozy. So not a lot of big stakes. This was, it was not on my favorites list, but it was really good. I really enjoyed it. The stakes were low. I could identify with the characters. I knew what was going to happen-ish, based on the fact that I am familiar with fantasy. So this is another one, Legends Lattes by Travis Baldree. This is also a series, so there's other options available if you like this world. Another option is, say, read horror all the time, but you've never read any historical sapphic horror. That would be Grey Dog by Elliot Gish. I flew through this because it was different than anything I'd read. It's first person, it's period, it's set in like 1901, and it's written in a journal perspective, and that was just so different. It was so dark, it was so weird, and it was such a slow burn that I kind of was just able to sink into this character and experience a different story than what I'm used to. Another suggestion is to change the age group you're reading in. If you typically read adult, try a middle grade. I still need to finish this. I started it. I bought it for my friends' kids, and they loved it. They wanted me to go to the movie with them and read the book, and I just put this down and haven't picked it up, and this is kind of something I'm looking forward to picking back up. It's so different than everything that we normally read. There's so few words on the page, you're gonna feel like you're reading really fast. The story is compelling and it's cute and it has something to do with the larger world. Try a different age demographic. A Lot's Away is one that I read. It's kind of like a Scooby-Doo-esque, and it's a lower YA, maybe upper middle grade type of story. It's from an Indigenous author and focuses on Indigenous stories to use that as a vessel for telling a modern day story. And so it's something a little bit different than what we're used to experiencing. I don't know, I lost count of numbers that I'm on a while ago, so we're just talking now. So my other suggestion, novellas and shorter books. I believe this one, Annihilation, is 195 pages, so under 200 pages. I have not started this yet. I was supposed to start it this weekend and my weekend got out of control. And that's okay. Sometimes things happen like that. Shorter stories. This one is like 108 pages or something. It's in the middle of a series, but the Discworld is really cool and you can kind of pick things up randomly and still have the context. So this one was really fun. It's silly, it's goofy, it's funny. I always recommend Terry Pratchett if you're stuck in a reading slump. I need to take my own advice on that because he's funny, but he's making commentary about society and larger world issues in a digestible and humorous way. And his books are largely just kind. And so I really recommend short stories, novellas, and Terry Pratchett. I'm gonna have to put all these books back in the order of the way that I've grabbed the books. These are from my boyfriend's shelf. Let me put them in the correct order here, but I've been reading this series. Add into a series that you know is easy for you to read and something you can sink into. So I have the Mercy Thompson series. These are the first 3 books. I wasn't sure I liked it until this book, and this book was dark. Content warnings for sexual assault in this book, but very maturely handled, very well done, and is actually like part of the story, not just for gratuitous violence against women. But I continued with this series, and when I'm feeling a little slumpy and I don't know what to read, I will pick up a Mercy Thompson book. The covers look like they're geared towards men, but they're not. This is a werewolf romance-ish, with each book being a Scooby-Doo mystery. I call them Scooby-Doos because it's like very easily solved, mid-level stakes. Someone's life is at stake, but you know it's not because there are so many books that you know she's gonna be fine. And that kind of takes some of the anxiety out of the book, but at the same time also makes it very simple to just sit and consume. These are made to be consumed quickly and easily, and they're enjoyable. The characters are good, and it is set in a world that I am familiar with because it's set in the Tri-Cities of Washington State. And I used to live over near Spokane and driving to the Tri-Cities on occasion. So it was kind of nice to see something that I was like, oh, I'm familiar with this area. Kind of an option that I've never really seen recommended, plays. Pick up a Shakespearean play. Ones like this with a translation, I recommend. This one has the act on this page, and then this page is a modern day translation of what is happening here. So you can read this. If you can't get the context, you can skim over here. I read this on Friday night it took me like 4 hours because I was like talking about it with people. I was posting on my stories. I was randomly dropping out of it and doing something else. I kind of drug it out, but this was really, really fun for me to just reread a play that I read in high school without the pressure of having to write about it and stuff. This was fun. It was an entirely different way to engage my brain because you just have a little bit of stage direction and dialogue, and having to use your brain to gather the context through the rest to figure out the rest of the story was very interesting. To again kickstart my brain to make me think about things differently and kind of get out of the this is what I do when I read thing. So this was a lot of fun. I recommend picking up a play. Pick up a play. Just get yourself out of your headspace and pick up a play. Very last thing is buddy reads. Buddy reads are great. If you don't have someone that in your personal life that you can read with, there are tons of buddy reads constantly going on Storygraph. I just did a big buddy read with a lot of people for Priory of the Orange Tree. I set it up on Storygraph and people joined in. But the other thing you can do is you can pick a book that you want to read, you can search Storygraph, and you can find and join a buddy read. And then as you read, you can post your thoughts. People can comment and have a discussion with you. You can comment on other people's posts about the book and have a discussion with it. And it gives you a way to be motivated to continue to read the book because you're able to talk about it with someone, even if it's a book you're not enjoying. And being able to engage with somebody else who's engaging with some media is an entirely different way to read or even watch something. And it gives a different kind of level of interaction with it that I think adds some excitement to it if you're feeling a bit bored with reading. I'm going to be starting this today, Angels Before Man. This is a queer retelling of The Fall of Satan. This is an independent published book by Raphael Nicolas. I am excited. I'm actually starting this as a buddy read with a friend from Instagram because I have a bookstagram and I have made a few friends, and I was able to be like, hey, do you want to read this with me? And so that's I'm excited to read this. I'm letting him set the pace. He wants us to finish it by Tuesday or Wednesday. And I was like, maybe Thursday? Because I'm a slow physical reader. So for me, this is going to get me out of my comfort zone because I realized I have a lot of Audible credits because I haven't been using it and have forgot to cancel it. So I have a ton of Audible credits. So I'm going to read it both physically and through audio to get through it a little bit quicker. Which will be a test of my comprehension. And so that's going to kind of give me some motivation to do something different and get out of my comfort zone. There's a big stack of books right there. So overall, if you distill all of my suggestions down, my biggest suggestion for beating a reading slump is to get out of your comfort zone. Get out of your comfort zone and do something entirely different. And that's kind of what I'm doing with this video too, because I'm feeling a bit slumpy with videos, I'm feeling a bit slumpy with books, and actually just talking about it like this has made me very excited to pick something up and start reading. But I have to go to work, so I'm gonna go do that. And thanks for sticking around me for about 20 minutes while I talked about different ways to get out of reading slumps, and I'll see you soon with something else.